Well, I'm lost. Manager Sama told me that when I'm lost, the best thing that I can do is to stay where I am and wait for someone to find me. So I guess I'll wait right here. In this scary corn maze. This, this is fine. This is fine. It's all gonna be fine, right? Nope, 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 nope. I'm I'm definitely gonna die here. Okay. What can I do to take my mind off of this? I guess we could do a lesson, like right here in the cornfield, right? uh, Hi there, students. I'm XS. That's little x, little s, which stands for extra scared, because that's what I am. Anyway, what can I talk to you about today? I can tell you, um, uh, what can I tell you that will help me not be so afraid? Um, I guess, I guess I could just describe the things that I see around me. Um, Yellow corn, orange pumpkin, blue sky. Oh, wait. No. This makes sense. I'll teach you all about adjectives. I can use them to talk about the things around me while I wait to be rescued. I guess. Anyway, let's get into it. Ikimashou. I've been promising you for a while now that I would teach you all about adjectives. I think adjectives in Japanese are particularly interesting for a couple of reasons. First, I guess I need to teach you the word for adjective. Um, how am I gonna do that? Huh. Do you think they would mind if I draw on this little sign? Hopefully they don't mind. I mean, I guess if anyone comes to yell at me, then they can just help me get out of here, right? Anyway, keioshi is the Japanese word for an adjective. It's actually specifically an e adjective. In Japanese, there are exactly two types of adjectives, e adjectives and na adjectives. They're different, they conjugate differently, they behave differently within our sentences, but at the end of the day, both e adjectives and na adjectives modify nouns to give them a little bit of extra description and more information. Today, we're going to focus on e adjectives, but I'm going to do another future lesson on na adjectives as well. Let's start off by learning a few adjectives. First, we'll need to pick a noun that we can modify. All right, let's use dog, because that's what I am. We already know the kanji for dog. It's going to be pronounced inu. And so now we're going to add some adjectives to describe that dog. Maybe it's a blue dog. So blue in the adjectival form will be aoi. So we're going to write that here. Aoi. Aoi inu. Eh, see? Blue is aoi and dog is inu. So when we put them together, we've got aoi inu, a blue dog. Note that it really is two E sounds, and we want to make sure that we have them both, right? So it's aoi inu. Two words, two E sounds. Aoi ends in E, inu begins in E. And that's going to be important later. You'll see. What about red then? A red dog. A big red dog? Hey, it could happen. Akai. Akai means red. Akai inu. Red dog. Same thing again. Akai inu. Ne? Two words. Akai inu. And white. A white dog. Shiroi. Shiroi inu. A white dog. My friend Caitlin is a white dog. She's a samoyed. Wuff wuff. And you could have a black dog too, right? Like a Doberman. So black in Japanese will be kuroi. Kuroi. That means black. Be careful though, Japanese has another word that's kind of similar to kuroi, and that word means dark. Kurai. Kuroi, black. Kurai, dark. Kuroi, kurai. I'm not gonna lie, it honestly takes my little puppy brain a moment to remember that they aren't the same word, kuroi and kurai. So, a kuroi inu is a black dog. I want to pet it. I want to quickly add a teeny tiny extra little bit so that we're actually creating a sentence here. We're going to add ga imasu. By adding ga imasu, we're now getting a full sentence. Kuroi inu ga imasu. There is a black dog. You remember imasu, right? Imasu is that Japanese verb of existence that we use for animate thingies, right? It's a verb that means something like there is or something exists. And in this case, kuroi inu ga imasu, a black dog exists. There is a black dog. In each case that I've shown you here, what we've been doing is creating a new compound noun. Aoi inu is one unit. It's a blue dog. Shiroi inu is one unit. Kuroi inu is one unit, right? All of these take up the entirety of the subject slot within our sentence. They answer the question, what is there? There is a blue dog. Aoi inu ga imasu. Or there is a red dog. Akai inu ga imasu. Or there is a black dog. Kuroi inu ga imasu. It's not just that there is a dog, it's that there is a specific dog. Because both the adjective and the noun are treated as one single unit, they literally become a new noun, and then they get marked as the subject of the sentence by ga. However, so far today I've been teaching you colors, and all of the colors that I've taught you so far have been E adjectives, right? Blue dog, aoi inu. Red dog, akai inu. White dog, shiroi inu. Black dog, kuroi inu. I would love to tell you that Japanese was nice enough to make all colors standard so that they were all E adjectives, but if I told you that, I would be lying. In fact, in Japanese, most of the other colors aren't even adjectives at all. They're actually nouns. Murasaki. Murasaki means purple. Murasaki no inu ga imasu. There is a purple dog. But look carefully. Murasaki itself is a noun that means purple. And so between Murasaki and inu, we have no. That's because technically both Murasaki and inu are nouns. And so they need to be connected with the possessive particle no. We actually do something like this in English too. We have phrases like fabrics of purple, skies of blue, fields of green. Are those color words really adjectives in English, or are they nouns? They're definitely being used to give extra quality to the other noun, but I think you can make an argument that in the case of something like skies of blue, what you're really saying is the skies are of a blue color. And to me, that feels like a noun. Japanese is doing something really similar with Murasaki no inu. It's a dog of purple. A dog with purple. A dog that has purple. Something like that, right? The point is that Murasaki is not an adjective because it's not actually creating a newly modified noun phrase the way that we did with aoi inu, akai inu, shiroi inu, etc. That's going to become important later because we really want to highlight that E that comes at the end of aoi, akai, and shiroi. The E that comes at the end of Murasaki is totally different. Not the same E at all. And you can tell that because in Murasaki, the E is in the kanji. With aoi, akai, and shiroi, the E is not in the kanji. That'll be important. So we'll remember that. Just like Murasaki, there are a bunch of colors in Japanese that work this exact same way. They work as nouns. And so they're going to need that no in order to attach to other nouns, right? So what about the word for green? Midori no inu ga imasu. There is a green dog. Midori is the Japanese word for green, but it's a noun and it doesn't have an adjectival conjugation, just like we saw with Murasaki. Side note, yes, you do recognize Midori from Midoriya. The strongest hero ever to exist has a name that means something like Mr. Blockhead Greenfields. Midori means green, Ya means valley, and Deku means. Well, Deku is difficult to translate. Historically, the very first time that we ever see the word Deku being used in Japanese is in a poem. Actually, in point of fact, my favorite poem that was written by the author Miyazawa Kenji. Miyazawa Kenji, super, super interesting, really cool dude, really cool poet, and really good novelist. Anyway, Miyazawa Kenji uses Deku to mean something derisive about himself. He's calling himself a dummy, a dolt, a bumbling fool. But I've always translated Deku as blockhead. Oh, another thing that I should mention about green before we move on. This is very interesting and a little bit hard to wrap your mind around, but in Japanese, the distinction between blue and green is very different than it is to us. I usually explain this to my students by telling them that if you were going to go to Japan and you ask somebody on the street, what are the colors on that stoplight over there? They would say that that stoplight has red, yellow, and blue lights. That's not because their stoplights are a different color than we have. No, you would look at the stoplights in Japan and you would see them exactly the same way that we see them here. But for most speakers of Japanese, the green color that we associate with stoplights is actually a shade of blue and not necessarily a shade of green. We can hypothesize a bunch of reasons why Japanese treats green and blue differently than we do. Could it be because Japan is very well associated with the sea, and in Japan, the sea is a blue-green color, and all matters related to the ocean, like weather and fishing, are all extremely important to the Japanese culture? Does it have something to do with the fact that Japan is an archipelago? I'm sure there are way, way, way more brilliant sociolinguists than me who probably know the exact reason, but for our purposes, we should just remember that Midori means a hunter green color. It's a dark, 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 dark shade of deep green. Actually, that's interesting because you probably know Deku wears dark green, and his name is Midoriya. So he really is wearing a green that would be associated with the word Midori because it's a dark green. Most other shades of like a lighter green or a blue are actually going to be ao in Japanese, at least to the Japanese kind of mindset and way of viewing the world. So an aoi inu could be sky blue or royal blue or sea green or even stoplight green. But a midori no inu would be like a dark jungle green color. Okay, moving on from green, let's learn orange. Oranji. Oranji no inu ga imasu. This is another class of color words that come from other languages, and there are several of them. Today we're going to learn two of these. Orange in Japanese is orenji. One of my favorite bands of all time is Orange Range. Orange Range is the way we translate it. They're a really cool band. You should look them up. Anyway, oranji functions the same way as the other two noun colors that we've learned so far. So an orange dog is an oranji no inu. You need that no in there because oranji by itself is not necessarily an adjective, and it's definitely not an e adjective. So it needs no in order to take another noun. And also, a pink dog is a pinku no inu. You might be wondering why pink and orange are both written in katakana. These are clearly marked as foreign words, and they obviously come from English. So, does that mean that Japanese just did not have a concept of orange colored things or pink colored things before they learned those words from English speakers? No, that's not the case. It's more that literally having words for shades of color is actually a relatively newish concept for people in general. We didn't have a word for orange some 400 years ago. But we usually used to talk about these colors in terms of shades and combinations of colors anyway. We just didn't really need the word for orange. And so that's something that only came about more recently. All of that, it kind of doesn't matter. We could talk about the history of when these words came to be, but the point is that we now have orenji for orange and pinku for pink in Japanese. Okay, so for now, so far, we've learned akai, red, aoi, blue, midori, green, murasaki, purple, orenji, orange, pinku, pink, shiroi, white, and kuroi, black. But I think there's a big, huge, bright yellow elephant in the room that we need to discuss. We haven't learned yellow yet. Yellow is sneaky AF. Okay, let's learn yellow. Yellow is ki-iroi. Ki-iroi. Ne? Notice the first thing right off the bat. Aoi had one kanji. Akai had one kanji. Murasaki and Midori, both one kanji. Ki-iro, the word for yellow in the noun form, ki-iro is two kanji. Yellow is special in that way. Technically speaking, those two kanji that we see, they themselves mean yellow on the left and color on the right. So iro is the word for color. Just by itself, it just means color. So ki-iro really means yellow in color. And yet, if we want to describe something as yellow, like a yellow bus, then we need both ki and iro. We must describe it as yellow in color. But that's not even the whole story with yellow. Because the word iro itself is a noun. As we said, it means color. And that means that you can describe something as yellow in the same way that we used murasaki and midori to describe something as purple and green, respectively. We're going to have to use that no, but that means that ki-iro by itself, not ki-iroi, but just ki-iro, can be used prenominally as either an adjective or a noun if we've attached it to no, right? So if we want to use it like an e adjective, it's going to be ki-iroi. And if we want to use it as a noun, then we have to say ki-iro no. Ne? Okay. Technically, it's true that you could do something similar with ao, aka, shiro, and kuro. I might use a sentence like, aka no inu ga imasu. There is a red dog. But to my mind, I think that seems a little bit more rare because we really want akai inu ga imasu. And the reason is because we're going to need to conjugate our adjectives. That's something that we'll talk about in the future. Just wait a few moments. Calm down. It's okay. Okay, when we're thinking about colors, here's kind of a good breakdown of things. Aoi, akai, shiroi, kuroi, and ki-iroi are all e adjectives, right? So they mean blue, red, white, black, and yellow. Most of the other colors are nouns. We have blue, aoi, akai, red, shiroi, white, kuroi, black, and ki-iroi that are all e adjectives. And generally speaking, the others are going to be treated as if they were nouns that have to take no before another noun. Oh yeah, speaking of colors, I need to teach you brown, like my brown ears. Brown in Japanese is chairo. It literally means the color of tea. That first cha there is the word for tea. And then iro, we already learned, means color. So chairo, brown in color, the color of tea. Note, however, that chairo is not an E adjective. I know this sounds weird, but yellow really is special. Even though you can use kiroi as an adjectival form to take a single noun and then put it together as kiroi inu, a yellow dog, you really can't usually do the same thing to make a word like chairoi inu. It's even a little hard for me to say. Chairoi inu. It sounds much, much better to say chairo no inu. I want to remind you of one thing before we move on to any other adjectives, okay? And that's the fact that Japanese adjectives can also appear after nouns to describe things. But our sentence pattern is going to need to be different in order for us to use our adjectives in this way. So far, our sentence has been color word plus inu ga imasu, just like aoi inu ga imasu. There is a blue dog. But if we want to use our blue color as a post-nominal noun, if we want to instead say, the dog is blue, then we're going to have to switch our sentence around. Inu wa chairo desu. Do you see how we've changed our sentence? We've gone from a ga imasu sentence to an x wa y desu sentence. And our new sentence means something like, the dog is brown, right? So it's the difference between there is a brown dog versus the dog is brown. All adjectives can be used in this way as nouns that come after other nouns in an x, y des sentence. But for any E adjective, we need to make sure that we're dropping the E in order to use it as a noun. For example, we started with a sentence that was shiroi inu ga imasu. But if we're going to make a new sentence that says the dog is white, then our sentence should be inu wa shiro desu. It's not iru wa shiroi desu. Why is that? Because shiro isn't modifying anything. It's a noun, and when it's used as a noun, it can be used as just shiro. Likewise, aoi as a noun is going to be ao. Kuroi will be kuro. Akai will be aka. And kiroi will be kiro. Ne? You know how these x, y des sentences work, right? You're creating a noun equals noun structure. It's equative, and that's how we're using des, and that's how we always use it. But the idea today is really to talk about adjectives. So let's look at some other adjectives and sentences that use E adjective type structures. I kind of feel like we need a new noun. We could keep talking about dogs all day until I get rescued, but why don't we talk about ghosts? Yurei is the word for ghost in Japanese. So now we're going to be using various adjectives to describe some Japanese ghosts. We'll start with oki yurei, a big ghost. Oki is the word for big in Japanese, and remember there really should be two kind of E sounds in this word. So it's oki yurei and not oki yurei. Okay, so oki means big, oki, and we can use it in any kind of situation where we want to describe something as big. Oki yurei, big ghost. Oki inu, big dog. Oki pizza, a big pizza. What about the opposite? In Japanese, opposite is hantai. So the word for opposite in Japanese is hantai. When I was first learning how to speak, one thing that I found really, really handy was knowing the opposites of some words. Sometimes you just forget a word, right? It happens to everybody. We all have these moments, even a native language speaker, when you're just like searching for some word and you know that you should know that word, but somehow it just fell out of your head and for the life of you, you cannot find it. Well, in those cases, I found that knowing the opposite can really help you. If for some reason you can't remember the word for small, then you might say, that one's not big. Well, in Japanese, you can do that by saying, nani nani no hantai, something's opposite. That's great for nouns. If you can put a noun in place of the nani nani in that construction, as in hiru no hantai wa, the opposite of day is night, yoru. So, Nihongo de hiru no hantai wa yoru desu. Nihongo de hiru no hantai wa yoru desu. In Japanese, the opposite of day is night, yoru, right? So, knowing how to say the opposite of something can really help you out in a lot of situations. The thing is, this nani nani no hantai phrase works best with nouns. With adjectives, there's actually a way to negate your adjective too. And this is why I've been trying to remind you that adjectives always end in this kind of extra sound, like we saw with aoi, right? It's got that extra But the sound is always going to exist outside of the kanji in any given adjective. And based on what we've already learned about Japanese so far, we can make an assumption about why this is. Kanji don't conjugate. Kanji don't conjugate. Hiragana will conjugate. So just like how verbs will frequently end with some u ending hiragana outside of the kanji, and that we know that we need to conjugate that u ending hiragana in order to form a new form of that verb, we're actually going to do something very similar with adjectives. I'll give you just a little preview of how this works for now, but when we return to adjectives again, I'll talk more about how you conjugate adjectives. So maybe we want to describe our ghost, but it's not big. It's a not big ghost. If we knew the word for small, that would be great, but since I haven't taught you yet, let's assume that you don't know the word for chisai. The word for small. You don't know the word for small. Forget what I said. We want to form a new construction that is a not big thing, a not big ghost. And for an adjective, that's actually pretty easy. For any adjective to form the negative form, we're just going to drop the and replace it with kunai. So we had oki before, and that meant big, and now we're going to create okikunai. Okikunai. Desu ne? It's a not big thing. So in okikunai yurei ga imasu, that sentence means there is a ghost that is a not big ghost. There is a not big ghost. Okikunai yurei ga imasu. Ne? This is still an adjective. In fact, nai itself is an adjective, just like oki is. So by creating this kunai adjectival form, what we've really done is we've created an adjective from an adjective, and we have a new adjective that just means the opposite of the adjective that we started with. We can even further conjugate okikunai, but I'll save that for a future lesson. We can lean on this same pattern by knowing the word for small. Chisai. Chisai means small. Chisai yurei ga imasu. There is a small ghost. And then we can form the negative of chisai pretty easily, just like we did with oki before. So oki became okikunai, and chisai will become chisakunai. Chisakunai. So make sure you don't have that in there, because it goes from chisai, we're dropping the and we're creating a situation where it's chisakunai. So we have a chisakunai yurei ga imasu as our sentence. There is a not small ghost. Okay, what if the ghost is a scary ghost? That would be kawaii. Kawaii means scary. So kawaii yurei ga imasu. Ne? There is a scary ghost. And then the opposite, there is a not scary ghost. Kawakunai. Kawakunai, not scary, as in kawakunai yurei ga imasu. He's just a little guy. One final example. The adjective form of the word good. In common use, the word for good is It's two sounds next to one another, as in just like this. I. Iire ga imasu. There is a good ghost. Now, there is a kanji that we use with I, but it's one that you see from time to time. It's not really necessary. I think most people don't use it, but I do see it in print from time to time, depending on how, like, serious the document is. Anyway, this is weird, but that kanji is actually really pronounced yo and not I. Even though we see I, technically that kanji is also pronounced yo. I know that sounds really weird, but this is just an odd quirk with the Japanese language. So even though iure is a perfectly valid and perfectly normal adjective plus noun conjugation that means good ghost, if we wanted to form the negative, a not good ghost, then we're going to have to change the way we pronounce this. So it's going to become yokunai. Yokunai yure. A not good ghost. Manager-sama! Thank goodness you found me. I'm so glad I'm being rescued. Can we get out of this stupid maze now? Alright, lead with love, everybody. I'm really glad that I got to talk to you today, even though it was a little bit scary, but we learned a lot about adjectives, and I think that's really, really super important, and I'm gonna go now, because I just want to get out of this maze. But anyway, I've been XS, and I'll see you later. Mata ne.